no doubt heard the term hazard communication, sometimes called right to know, and the acronym SDS, short for Safety Data Sheet. The Hazard Communication Standard requires employers to train employees about the hazards of chemicals and substances in the workplace. The United Nations adopted the globally harmonized system of classifying and labeling chemicals. An acronym you'll be hearing a lot more of in the near future is GHS. The GHS includes criteria for the classifications of health, physical, and environmental hazards. It also specifies what information should be included on labels of products containing hazardous chemicals, as well as safety data sheets. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, has mandated changes to the existing hazard communication standard that adopt the global harmonized system. By the end of this video, you'll understand the new globalized harmonized system of hazard communication. Some recognizable changes to be discussed include new container label formatting, pictograms, product identifiers, signal words, hazard statements, precautionary statements, and safety data sheets. On or before June 1st, 2015, all of these changes will take effect. Material safety data sheets are now just safety data sheets. The new safety data sheets will have the same general information and serve the same purpose. The only modification will be a more standardized format that's easier to understand and read. Labels on hazardous chemicals will have symbols or pictograms that visually recognize the main hazards. Signal words will be on all labels where hazards exist. Name symbols like warning will indicate less serious risk, and danger will indicate more serious risk. Two new statements will be required on chemical labels. The hazard statement, which describes what the actual hazard is, and the precautionary statement, to explain what you should do to protect yourself from the hazard. All labels are required to have pictograms, a signal word, hazard and precautionary statements, product identifiers, and supplier information. Labels will vary in design, but all of the following elements have to be included. Product identifiers, which are the chemical name, code number, and batch number. These have to be easily visible on both the label and the safety data sheets. There are two signal words. These words identify the levels of hazardous risk. Self-heating mixtures fall in the danger category. Warnings are only used for less serious Category 2 hazards. There are occasions where no hazardous signal word is required. The SDS, or safety data sheet, will need pictograms to alert users of the chemical hazards to which they may be exposed. Each pictogram is a symbol outlined with a red border on a solid white background. Each pictogram represents a different chemical classification and hazard. There are 8 total pictograms required by the new standards, one being optional. The health hazard will be used if the chemical is dangerous to your health if used improperly. The flame pictogram indicates that there's a risk of fire and you should be cautious of flammable material. The exclamation mark is a basic health hazard, less severe than the skull and crossbones. Skull and crossbones is a more severe health hazard symbol to signify particularly hazardous chemicals. This also means this chemical will produce adverse effects following a single dose. The gas cylinder symbol describes the use and storage of potentially dangerous compressed gas. The corrosion symbol prompts the user to be especially aware of storage requirements. The exploding bomb indicates a significant physical risk and should be treated with extreme caution. The flame over circle symbol indicates the chemical includes oxidizers that produce oxygen that may result in combustion of other materials. The environment symbol is included in the non-mandatory category. Hazardous statements are used to describe the nature of the chemical hazard. One example of the hazardous statement is may cause respiratory irritation. All applicable hazards must appear on the label and the SDS sheets. They can be combined to reduce redundancies and make for an easier read. Precautionary statements describe recommended actions that should be taken to prevent negative effects to the user from the hazardous chemicals. The new GHS standards require that chemical safety data sheets have a total of 16 specific sections. Section 1, Identification. This will include the manufacturer's name and address, emergency contact number, recommended use, and restrictions on use. Section 2, the Hazardous Identification section, includes all hazards associated with the chemical and required label elements. Section 3, Composition Information on Ingredients. This section includes information on chemical ingredients and trade secret claims. Section 4, First Aid Measures. This will include important symptoms, effects, acute, delayed, or required treatments. Section 5, Firefighting Measures. This section lists suitable firefighting techniques and equipment. Section 6, Accidental Release Measures. This section informs you of emergency required protective equipment and guidelines for containment and cleanup. Section 7, Handling and Storage. This section will list safe handling and storage, including incompatibilities. Section 8, Exposure Control. This section lists OSHA exposure limits and PPEs, proper protective equipment. Section 9, the Physical and Chemical Properties section, lists the chemical's characteristics and properties. Section 10, the Stability and Activity section, that lists the chemical stability and possibility of chemical reactions. Section 11, Toxicology Information. This section informs you of the likely routes of exposure, acute and chronic effects, and numeric measures of toxicity. Section 12, Ecological Information. This section will provide information to evaluate the environmental impact if it's released. Section 13, Disposal Considerations. This section offers guidance on proper disposal, along with recycling instructions and safe handling practices. Section 14, Transport Information. This section includes classification information for shipping and transporting the hazardous chemicals by road, rail, air, or sea. Section 15, the regulatory information. This section identifies the safety, health, and environmental regulations specific to the product indicated in the safety data sheet. Section 16, Other Information. This provides the reader with the last revision of the safety data sheet and any changes that were made. For more information regarding the new globally harmonized system, visit this website, www.osha.gov/dsg/hascom/ghs.html.